All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. I have Josh Gorra with me on Lessons in Leadership. Josh and I met years ago when we did some work together, and I feel really grateful that we've been able to keep our relationship and friendship open throughout the years. It's led to a lot of great connections, a lot of really interesting conversations, and thanks so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and it's always nice to spend some time with colleagues we respect and done previous work together. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I like to have these lessons in leadership as really just like a casual dialogue for us to talk about things that we've noticed, things we're thinking about, pondering, areas in which we'd like to grow. And I know that leadership is so central to what your work is about and the ways that you're trying to grow as an individual. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So as an entrepreneur, right, there's always going to be ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys, but the one common denominator is that I think all of us are facing is how do we adapt, right? I don't want to use the word pivot because everybody else has done it for me, right? 100 times over.
Yep.
But I will say that it helps us adapt. It helps us evolve. I think, 100% of the time that we spend now, I think we're much more intentional with what we do on a daily basis. So I think it's important to apply it to business and personally.
Totally. I just want to say hi to the people who are joining us live. We're so excited to have you here. Please feel free to pop your question into the comment box below, and Josh and I would love to get to it. Everything's welcome here. When we think about lessons in leadership, we're talking about your professional life, your personal life, things that are happening at home. It's all about those relationships in all areas of our life and how we choose to show up. So Josh, I know that mindset is a big thing for you. And tell me how do you relate those two, mindset and leadership, and how does that show up for you?
So great question. Mindset's important because, if you go back 10 years ago, I didn't think that nobody thinks the same way today, right? 25 to 35, 35 to 40. I'm 38 now, 2 kids, family, and the whole nine. Mindset's critically important, and how we apply it personally and professionally can have an effect on everybody around us. So with our family, with our colleagues, with our significant others, if we lead by example and we're intentional about what we want to get across, that's why mindset plays a part. Because if you let little things affect you, or there's a lot of different things going on right now, right? And it's hard to get it out of one easy answer. But I would say that mindset is the fundamental basis for what we do on a daily basis. If we're not focused, if we don't have a clear head, we can't run our day. If we don't plan ahead, our day runs us, right? And you know this, but it's a matter of having that top of mind. So you're not thinking about tomorrow or dwelling on yesterday. You're focused on today.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious what kind of brought you to this place to have mindset be your focus. Was there something valuable that a mentor taught you or a previous boss?
It wasn't so much a previous boss. It was more so, how do I change the dynamic for me? How do I keep doing? Is it the business or the environment, right? So like, is it the financial services that I enjoy or don't enjoy, and is that what caused me to make a change? And every time for me, it was. Nothing against any previous company or employer I've worked with, because I've learned a lot. But I think it was more internally for me, because I said, well, now I have 2 little people looking up at me, and they're saying, well, Dad's doing X, Y, Z, and he set the bar so high. Like, how do I, right? So there's it's a double-edged sword, right? So I treat them with a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy, but that had to come from within. So no one's going to teach. They try to teach you certain things, I think, and I say they as an industry, but it's hard, right? Because it's like, go get your licenses, go build a team, go recruit more people, go train, right? Oh, and by the way, have a normal life. But at one point I said, enough is enough. I'm not getting any younger. I want to be healthier, right? My buddies joke and call me Benjamin Button, right? Like I'm the oldest young guy they know, because I make it top of mind. It's like, look, we're not going to live forever. And if you really want to maximize today and make tomorrow better, focus on today. Focus on the 24 hours you have today. And that's where that whole you versus you came from. That's where the Century ride for the bike ride for Best Buddies came from. That, that transformational piece for me was one day at a time. And I'm still on that mission. It's an ongoing game. There is no finish line.
Sure. Yeah. So I just want to say thanks to Cobus for your comment. Like, mindset is crucial. And we're going to talk a lot about that today, because I will toot your horn for you. I'd say Josh is like a mindset expert at this point. I mean, with a new book coming out and whatnot. But I want to clarify some of the things and add more information. You just dropped a bunch of things that you've been working on, and not everybody knows about it. So I love the concept you versus you, and it's something you talk about a lot. If you guys don't follow Josh already, he's got an awesome Instagram. You're also on LinkedIn too, dropping a lot of awesome knowledge bombs and really great ways to shift your mindset and focus on a daily basis to really help keep things actionable for you. Like you said, you can only create in the current moment. And that's where we get confused, right? There's like, especially everyone's coming to me about like, oh, what do you do for planning for next year or whatnot? It's like, well, people are getting confused about worrying too much about things that have already happened or where they think they're supposed to be today. And then too much anxiety about the future and not knowing the certainty of it or what's controllable. So I really love the concept, like you said, like today, focus on today. What can you create today to get 1% better?
Right.
But I would love for you to expand upon that and move into the you versus you concept, because I think this is really important.
Okay. Well, thank you for saying all those lovely things. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say you didn't play a part in it, because you did help me expand the way I thought. You go back 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and you say, well, what's keeping you back? Like, why not go just do it now, right? Open up your own shop, do this, do that. So fast forward, things happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
You may have uncovered a monster that was sleeping inside or was idle for a while. Yeah. So the 1% growth for me is a benchmark, right? So you talk to a lot of people, you talk to a lot of experts or a lot of gurus, and they say, well, you have to do X, Y, Z. And, I've always thought of or been the believer of, be careful when somebody says you ought to, right? Or you have to, or you should. I always believe in we. I think we should do this. Or if I talk to somebody, I tell a story versus, it's, you should do this and it's we should do this. Mm-hmm. So, and then I started thinking, I'm like, well, if it's we, then how do I control myself, right? And everybody's channel is IFM, like what's in it for me? Mm-hmm. And okay, well, how do I maximize today, right? And that's how it came about. I was like, well, if I can focus on 1% every single day, compound interest is your best friend. At the end of the year, how much did you accomplish? If you drink 8 bottles of water today and 9 tomorrow and 10 the next day, if you bike, right? So there you go. If you have some clients are good, more clients are better, but how do you find the right clients? And how do you get better at your craft? And it's practicing language, it's practicing role playing, it's practicing recruiting. And that's why I love coaching more than anything. Because when that's what I do now, it's like I just help people, I teach. So to answer your question, the 1% came from I needed a benchmark. Now that doesn't mean only do 1% every single day. It means you could do 100%, you could do 10%, 12%, but no matter what's going on, you have to do 1%. And if you maximize the time, so I know that from 9:30 to 10, we have this time allotted. So I'm 100% into this conversation. I don't care what's going on outside, right? The most horrible thing could happen 6 miles from here, and it wouldn't matter to me because right now it's not going to affect me. Mm-hmm. And it may later, right? But a lot of people are in a meeting. They open the phone. How many times you've been in a meeting and they check the phone or they're texting or they're saying, "Oh, I'm listening," and they're not. They're not present. So being present is one of those things we all hear and we talk about it and it sounds cool. But I'm telling you, if you only focus on you versus you, if you're in a meeting, you have to be present. If you're on a call, you have to be on that call, right? If you're working out, you have to do that time for you. If you're with your kids, you maximize that time. Don't be with your kids and on a conference call and on a FaceTime and on a Zoom. It's like you're not doing anything. Multitasking is overrated. Multitasking is overrated, 100%.
And actually, all the data shows, which I'm a huge science nerd, that multitasking is incredibly ineffective. We as humans are terrible at it. And so even just trying. But I think the thing that isn't discussed enough when we talk about at like having all these devices and doing all these things at once, is the amount of unhappiness it actually creates.
Mhm.
That presence is really the secret to that level of fulfillment and getting out of things like what you put into them. Because if you're doing all these things, like you said, you're not really in any, and it doesn't feel good when we don't give 100%, 110%, right? Like when you're not all in it, that level of distraction and the things that it takes away from, like, the kids is the best example. And who's guilty? Like, I will be the first to say, like, I am so guilty because I love to go home and be with my family. So I'm like, oh, just wait, just this one. Let me just do this thing. And that sucks. It sucks for them. It sucks for me. And it sucks for the person I'm trying to write the email to, because it's probably full of errors. Like, no one's winning there. The more that we can really concentrate and focus on, like you said, exactly what's right in front of you, then the better work you stand to create, the better energy you bring to something, which ultimately creates more, manifests more for you, right? And then the more happiness and fulfillment you will experience.
And plus, when you listen with intention, it's a big difference, right? Like, I know when you're listening, or when someone's listening, versus them going like, yeah. Well, let me tell you about this, right? Or the worst is when you walk in, you say, how you doing? And they say, oh, good, how are you? And then you're going to answer, and they say, oh, I forgot to tell you something else. And it's like, well, why'd you ask how I'm doing if you're not going to listen?
Yeah.
Right? So it's like the little simple things, but if you accumulate those on a daily basis and you pay attention, it's amazing how many times you focus and you write it down. You say, okay, well, I totally missed that. I totally missed that. Right? Like, all those things add up. And anyway, that's where the you versus you came from. Because if I could blame the government. I could blame my old boss. I can claim the other guy that told me I could only wear white or blue shirts, which, by the way, I'm wearing white and blue today. So who knows, right?
Multitasking.
So, like, right. But it's like, who cares? And it's like, there's so many things out there that we could take time and say, well, the tax is too high, tax is too low. The president, this president, that president. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, it does not matter. If you go back in the history of time and you look at the first president, which, by the way, nice guy, smart guy, founding father, right? Everybody wore wigs. Everybody had wooden teeth back then. Like, what are we talking about, right? Like, why does that matter today? You know what I mean? So you laugh, right? But it's true.
I wasn't expecting that. It's not where I thought.
Nobody does. But that's my point. Everybody blames something, and it's like, well, I didn't get the check I was supposed to get. I didn't get the commission payout. I didn't get the right coach, or I didn't get no, it's the mindset you bring to the meeting. Because if you go to any guru or any coach or any mentor or any teacher, I don't care how good, bad, or different, you're going to learn something if you pay attention.
Cool. I love that. So I would love to hear about, I'm going to use the word pivot. I'd love to hear about a pivotal insight or breakthrough that changed the way that you lead or the way you think or see in your business or life. This question is important because a lot of people in my audience are at that inflection point, right? Like, hard work got them to where they are. Hard work helped them build the foundation of a great business. But there comes this really important point where you can't just pour more hours in and squeeze more out, right? Or that's certainly not creating that happiness, that fulfillment that I talk about is really central to lifestyle entrepreneurship. So what are some insights or breakthroughs that you've had that have really changed the way you see things?
So for me, I developed a recipe. I developed a checklist. Right? So a pilot gets into a plane and then I'll say, okay, Brittany, Josh, strap in. We're going to make it to Miami. Let's figure it out. He checks his list before we even do anything, right? We don't even see what's going on behind that closed door. We're always looking like, see what's, can we see him? And he's going, okay, check the wind, check this, check that. And then he takes off. So how is our day any different? It's not. Right. So like having a plan, having a purpose, having a mission statement, not an elevator pitch, but a mission statement. What's a purpose? Why do you do what you do? Right. And that's where that mindset is important, because you have to think of, okay, I can work 18 hours a day. I can work 16 hours a day. When I met you, I was 25 pounds heavier than I am today. I couldn't run certain things. I couldn't get up on a Sunday and run 10 miles. Right. But now I can dial it in, plug it in, and go. Right. And it's because I chipped away at the one thing I was missing was I wasn't realizing that I had to push myself more in the time I have. So we work 8 hours, right? And people say, well, you could be, by the way, really good book. I'm sure you read it, The 4 Hour Work Week, Tim Ferriss, right? So it doesn't mean work 4 hours a week. That's not what it means. It means have systems, have delegate, maximize time. So could you work more? Yes. Have I done it? Absolutely. Doesn't work. If you work, if you place your action with emotion, and you divide the time, you'll figure it out, right? You have to have that, whatever works for any individual. But I would say to any entrepreneur, you have to maximize your time. You have to be intentional with your time. You have to be selfish, or I like to say unselfishly selfish. So because you're doing it for other people, right? You're not doing it for yourself. But I want to be present with the meeting I'm in. But when it's time to go, it's time to go. So if I'm with my kids, I tell them the same thing. Pay attention because I got 2 hours, right? And then they go, oh, got it, right? So if I'm with a client, same thing. So I think it's about delegating. It's about trusting others. It's about having systems. It's about having the right mindset and having a recipe. So my book, I mentioned a lot of around that recipe.
Cool.
And what's that?
I said, awesome. Do you have it? Can you show it?
Yeah, no. I actually gave away I sold the last one I had in front of me yesterday, but I will.
After this, put it in the comment section. Give us a link to your to purchase your book.
You got it. Thank you so much. I will. But I'm very fortunate. It was a bestseller here on Amazon and internationally in Canada, UK, and a bunch of other places, which who knew people speak Spanish in Canada? Apparently they do. And they read the book, right? It'll be in English and Spanish, but yes, I thank you for doing that. But I talk about the 10 principles. So joshgorra.com is my website if you want to check them out. But the number one is gratitude. Number two is self-care, right? And number three is passion, circle of influence, and on and on and on. But I focus on those three. So what am I thankful for? What am I doing today for self-care? How am I empowering other people around me to think in the same space? And it's nice that way because it's much easier, right? If I empower Colin, one of my best friends, an office manager now, I've known her for 12 years, shares the same birthday as my mom. So that's the universe checking the box saying you did the right thing. Yeah. So like he gets it. So if he complains, I say, what are you complaining about? Right? Like we got X, Y, Z. And if I complain, he reminds me. So it's like having accountability partners, having systems, having a daily checklist, or I call it the daily principles.
Awesome.
So hopefully that helps. I know I said a lot there, but
super helpful. So in your book, people can learn about these principles that you use, a checklist that you use daily that helps you identify what's most important that you need to move forward on and get you in the right mind space, headspace to be able to do that successfully.
Yes, it does. So thank you. Yeah. In the book, I highlight that, but I also share the immigrant story about my mom and dad, how they came to this country. My dad's from Havana, Cuba. My mom's from Guayaquil, Ecuador. And I grew up in Lawrence, Mass. Right. And my whole life, I grew up thinking, man, it's a tough city. And how do we get out? How do we do this? How do we do that? Little did I know what they went through to get here, So it all puts things in perspective.
Totally. I love that. I'm so glad that you shared that piece about your upbringing, because there's so much of the things that initially we think is our adversity, our struggle, the thing that didn't give us that silver spoon to give us a good launching pad. But ultimately, it's the thing that actually has made you successful.
100%, no doubt. And I had to. I feel like there's an obligation in my mind, right? Nobody says I have to do it. But I wanted to write that book more than anything to leave a legacy for my girls. I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn, ROHN, the same guy that trained Tony Robbins and a bunch of other people. But he influenced me in a way that many people, I've never even met the guy. And he's had more of an impact on me than anybody else. But he talks about how journals, how photographs and books are the three best things or legacies you can leave behind. And I think of my girls someday, being 18 and 20 or whatever it is, and they're saying, man, when did you find the time to do this? Like, why did you do it? And who knew that grandma did this? And who knew that grandpa did this? And so like, that's part of it. But the bigger thing is I want to empower other people that have that limited belief or that limited story or the limited mindset that if you come from another country or you speak a different language, my first language was Spanish. Right. And my parents' only language is Spanish. They speak English too now, but it doesn't mean you have to stop there. It doesn't mean you have to settle for a $10 an hour job. It doesn't mean you can't run the company that employs other people to have a job. Right. So there's a lot of endless possibilities. And I focus on the gray. A lot of coaches, a lot of people, mentors focus on black and white. I want to focus on the gray.
I like that. In 1 minute, can you tell us what's next for you? What are you focusing on? What are you building? What are you pondering?
Man, it's a loaded question. There's a lot there.
That's right. Those are the best questions.
My next book.
Love it.
Look, more time for my kids, more time for myself, and just reset the clock. I mean, every time 2020 has taught all of us that we have to take today and make the most of it because it's not promised, right? And, a heartfelt message to all the people that have lost somebody that they love this year, because I know it's been challenging for us not to see my parents or Vanessa's parents or whatever the case is. But, do as much as you can while you can. Everything on planet Earth, it has like unlimited capability and maximize it every single day without thinking about it. The human species is the only one that limits, right? Like you watch a tree grow, it grows as much as it can. You watch this, it grows as much as it can. Human beings, for some reason, we have that gift of perspective. So it's like, oh, do I do it? Do I not do it? Oh, I got time. I could do it later, right? As opposed to just doing. So it's a loaded question, but I would say, next project.
We'll see. Moving. I love it. I love it. You're always up to something good. So everybody stay tuned. I can't suggest enough that you follow Josh, get some daily insights, get some motivation and ideas to just keep moving, keep taking action. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on with me today. You always make it fun and exciting. So hopefully the viewers have enjoyed. And you shared some really, really interesting ideas and lessons in leadership. So I thank you for that, Josh.
You're very welcome, Brittany. And thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure spending time with you.
Yeah. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye-bye.